What's going on, everybody? I'm Tyler Wojciak, the host of Locked On Irish, and Notre Dame has two more chances to prove that they're worthy of the college football playoff. And if they don't beat Syracuse by at least 3 scores on Saturday, that might not be enough.
I'm Allison Hayes. I've been covering the Irish for more than 20 years, and this was supposed to be a homecoming for former Notre Dame quarterback Steve Angeli, but instead, it is not going to be as planned.
I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-American from Notre Dame, and not only does Notre Dame have to win, they have to cover, and it's got to be style points like Giorgio Armani made their uniforms.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
All right, well, welcome to our midweek edition of the Irish Squad Show, brought to you on the #1 sports podcast network, Locked On Sports. Let's go. I'm telling you guys, I kind of look like I have this might maybe like my driver's license photo right here. The backdrop, the lighting. I'm not sure what is going on. I've been working on this lighting all season. We're still not getting there, but I'm trying. I am trying. All right. Well, for today, of course, we are going to be previewing this Syracuse game. It's senior day for the Irish, so it's a big one at home. They are trying to finish up the season strong inside Notre Dame Stadium. Just 2 games left on this season and 2 games left to prove that they deserve to be in the college football playoffs. And we're going to find out some memories from you guys about your time as a player, your time as a fan, as a student. We're also going to take a look at this matchup and, of course, talk about the quarterback situation at Syracuse. We thought it was going to be a homecoming for Steve Angeli, but instead, it's not looking like that's going to happen. They're still trying to figure out who Angeli's replacement is at Syracuse. It's been a tough go for the Orange at that QB position. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the defense for Notre Dame and the showing that they just had. Can they repeat that as they take on Syracuse? We'll also talk about the CFP some more, and we'll give our final thoughts on the matchup. But let's go ahead and get things started. Tonight's title sponsor is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, well, coming into this game, Notre Dame is a 35.5-point favorite against Syracuse. According to our partners at FanDuel Sportsbook, the over-under is 50.5. I think Notre Dame is going to put that up easily on their own. There's no money listed for this, no money line listed. According to ESPN, Notre Dame has a better than 97% chance of beating the Orange, and I have to agree with ESPN on this one. Now, Syracuse has dropped 6 straight games, their worst loss being a 35-point defeat at the hands of Duke. Meanwhile, of course, the Irish have won 8 straight games, coming off dominant performances over Navy and then number 22 ranked Pitt, and they needed to do that for those style points. Syracuse is an absolute mess right now. Losing 6 straight, averaging under 12 points per game, have just had an implosion of the coaching staff, and it's just not been good for the Syracuse Orange this season. Things looked like they might be in good shape when they started off with Steve Angeli. We're going to get into that in a second, because first we're going to start it off talking about Senior Day and just the emotions that go into that, what Senior Day means to these players. And for you, Alan, I mean, you're our player here today. We should say that Reggie Brooks normally is joining us as well, our other Irish legend, but he is on the road at an event with former head coach Lou Holtz right now down in Florida. So Reggie can't be here tonight. So Alan, you get to take center stage as our former player. Kind of take us through what you remember of your senior day and just that importance, the significance of it, and how do you sort of manage the emotions of that kind of experience?
Well, I think the first thing that happens on senior day is you say to yourself, how the hell did we get here so fast? Because it does go fast. And when you're in school, it's a grind. You know, you got your school work, and you got your training, and you have a routine that you have for 4 years, and you constantly go through this routine and get ready for the next game, and then boom, it hits you, that okay, I'm not going to be doing this again. And for a majority of the players, it's going to be their last time playing competitive football. There's a handful of guys that will go on and play in the NFL, but for most of the players, this is it, the last time they're going to wear the uniform. So it's very, very emotional. And I think what happens is the underclassmen try to make it more important for them to have the seniors go out with a victory the last time in Notre Dame Stadium. So the onus is on. I know that's how I felt when I was an underclassman, because the seniors, you want them to have that good memory. And I think one of the things that happened to really bring about more emotion to senior day is when they started bringing the parents down on the field. When I played, they didn't bring the parents down on the field.
Really?
No, they didn't. We didn't. We just ran out the tunnel one at a time, and they announced us. But my parents, they lived in Virginia, and they came to every game, and they would drive to every game. It was a 10 to 11-hour drive. They were 2 school bus drivers, but they made sure they got to South Bend to see their son. And when I was broadcasting the games, I would get kind of sentimental around the senior day, watching the parents out on the field, and just thinking about all the friendships that my parents made, and that it was the time of their life to watch me play. Yeah, especially because I lost my dad a year later when I was in the NFL. But I just look at the bond that gets created, not just with the players, but with the players' parents. Those are friendships that they make that last a lifetime. And it's just so many good memories, just being associated and affiliated with Notre Dame. And a lot of these parents go to the away games too, but it's something about, the parents love coming to Notre Dame Stadium more than the players do. They just do, because it's it gives them such a sense of pride that, number one, their son chose this university, and number two, that they're going to be okay. Even if they don't play another down of football, they're going to be okay, because they're going to get a degree from the University of Notre Dame. So it's a very, very proud moment. Kind of melancholy too, because they get used to coming up and tailgating and associating with other people. And, the parents get to be kind of stars too, because people recognize them and get their autographs sometimes. And, where the players, they don't tailgate, but the parents can tailgate and have a good old time. But getting back to the importance of the game, you do have to, like Marcus Freeman said, go through that emotional part, and I don't know if I would have been able to handle running onto the field, seeing my mom and dad there, knowing how much they sacrificed for me, and just want to make that moment so happy for them, and then go to the sidelines and flip that switch
and turn it off. Right.
Yeah. But that's your job, and that's what you have to do. And so it's one of those deals where, yes, you're very emotional, but it's all for naught if you lose that damn game. And I remember broadcasting one time, and I can't remember which player it was, but Notre Dame lost on senior day. And this one player came out, and, we do post game on the radio when we're there a good 30, 45 minutes after. This dude was still sitting on one knee in the end zone, looking at the stadium, knowing this was his last time he was going to be in the stadium. And so it gets to you in a hurry, becoming a senior. And then you just want to take in every aspect of everything that happens on that day. But the most important thing is getting the victory. And so that kind of makes flipping the switch a little easier, because now you got a responsibility. As a senior, you want to win your last home game, very much. But the underclassmen know how important it is, because they're going to be in your shoes a year later, 2 years later. They know that they got to sell out on that particular game to make sure they send out to seniors. And, in each senior class is different and special in its own way. But most of the time, those seniors are great mentors to the underclassmen. And, I had my senior class when I was a freshman, was, guys like Phil Carter and John Mosley, and oh shoot, I can't even remember all of them, but they were just great caretakers of the program, and they were the kind of guys that didn't haze you. Once you got into the regular season, you weren't a freshman anymore. You were part of the team, and so it's a big family, and it's sad in a way that you play your last game and you got to go on your way, but you're left with nothing but great memories.
Alan, I'm going to come back to you with another question to follow up, but I want to get to Tyler, because Tyler, you have a different perspective. You were a student at Notre Dame. You were graduating probably that year, so you knew that was going to be your last home game as a student. What was that experience like for you? What was the game that you got to see for your senior game as well?
Well, it was 2017. Notre Dame was playing Navy the week after they had just been destroyed by Miami. So it was tough timing, but it was still an extremely memorable game. The weather was terrible. It was honestly a lot like the Navy game this year, where it was in the high 30s, it just pouring down rain. It never snowed, thank God, because that would have just made matters worse. But it was an ugly game. Notre Dame won 24-17. And I'm not going to lie to you, there was a point during the third quarter when Notre Dame was down where I really contemplated leaving. And I never left a game other than there's one game in 2016, Notre Dame was playing Miami. I left that one because I'm a big Cleveland Guardians. They were the Cleveland Indians at the time. They were playing the Cubs in the World Series. So I felt like I had a good excuse to leave that one. They were also
I left that game early also, Tyler.
They were like 3-6. They were like 3-6 at the time. I was like, World Series, terrible teams playing each other. So I left that game. But I was in such rough shape because of how cold it was and how painful the game was. But I was like, I can't leave. This is the last time I'll get to do this as a student. I stuck it out. I'm so glad I did, because then after the game, all the seniors get to come on the field. And it's not like a field storming. It's just like a very nice moment where everyone gets to come down. A lot of the senior players stay out there, or maybe they go back to the locker room and come out. Either way, it's just a really cool moment. And we didn't want to leave. So I went from being in the crowd trying to convince myself to stay to a point where the ushers are now moving down to file us out of the stadium. And I think it hits you all at once. You go through a bunch of different emotions because, like I'll be able to go back. I've been back to Notre Dame a bunch of times since then, but it's always different when you're a student and you feel like you're part of it, like you're part of the game. You're a little bit more involved because you're in the student section. You feel like you actually have more of an impact on what the opposing team does, and it's almost like your responsibility to get loud and impact their play. And there's still a responsibility as a fan, but it's nothing like when you were a student. So, it might not have been the most fun game of all time, but it was certainly the most memorable.
I love that. And Alan, to follow up with you, what was the game? Who did you guys play your senior year? What year was that? Do you remember how you did against them? And I assume you won.
Well, no, unfortunately. It was 1985. We played LSU.
No way.
We finished at year 5 and 6.
Oof.
I tell you, one of the things that happened, we were trying to come from behind. I think we lost like 10-7, something like that. But we were trying to drive. We had a nice drive at the end of the game. And at that time, Tim Brown was open over the middle, and he dropped a pass, and he was actually in the locker room crying. And I was actually, trying to console him because I knew he was going to be a great player there. And I know he didn't drop the pass on purpose. And so really just tried to let the guys know it was okay. There were better days ahead for them. I was always, the, rah-rah guy for the underclassmen, just letting them know that, they were going to be able to turn things around. We might have screwed up, when we were there, but they were going to be the ones that turned it around. And sure enough, 3 years later, they won a national championship.
I just looked it up. It was 10-7 was the final score. And I'm also looking up, when is the last time Notre Dame lost on senior day?
Wasn't it 08?
This says 2017.
Oh, yeah. No, it was 2016 to Virginia Tech. I remember that. Because the Virginia Tech players all came to the student section and talked a bunch. I remember that. But that was not my senior day. I was a junior.
Okay, good. My favorite moment that I remember just working in TV and covering Notre Dame over these years would have been, 2006. So it was Brady Quinn's senior day. They were ranked 6th in the nation, totally dominated Army. I wrote this down. 41-9 was the final score. Brady Quinn threw for 3 touchdowns in that game to Jeff Samardzija, 2 to Raymond McKnight. Darius Walker had a huge game, 2 rushing touchdowns. The Irish wore that hunter green, and that was not part of the plan. That was something that Charlie Weiss Jr., I guess, came up with and asked Charlie Weiss if the guys could do something special that day. So they decided to do the green jerseys. And that was at a time when Notre Dame was not winning in those green jerseys. They were almost bad luck. So it was cool. They came out in the green. But what I remember the most about it was after the game, after they won, Brady Quinn took that victory lap around the stadium, on the inside, and he ran around the bowl and he was just high-fiving people. And I'm very young, very new in TV, first job out of college, and I'm carrying a camera that's, is this big and this heavy, and I've got it on my shoulder, and I'm running backwards so that I can have Brady in the camera, and I'm running with him.
That was you?
For about 80 yards. I didn't make the whole entire lap.
I could see it from the booth.
So yes, very cool, very memorable, and loved it. So very, very, very cool. All right, maybe we should take our first time out, and since we're going a little long here to start, so we'll take our first time out. When we come back, we'll start talking about this matchup. We'll talk about Steve Angeli and all that and more coming up after this break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. College football is in full swing, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there is just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's where I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. And I love the zone deals too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Syracuse. I don't think anybody right now is, Syracuse has a 3% chance of winning. So I guess there is a chance, but it's not looking good. What would have been nice, and I think what a lot of fans were sort of looking forward to at the beginning of the season when we saw it on the schedule, was the return of Steve Angeli. Of course, Angeli was the longtime backup at Notre Dame, and honestly, very beloved. He was a fan favorite. And when he had his opportunities to kind of come in and off the bench, he made those opportunities count. And I think everyone thought that Angeli could have been a starting quarterback at a lot of different programs in the country. And so it was an interesting move because, sometimes fans can be rough. If a player decides to transfer, they think that they should stay, and that's part of college football. And if you don't earn your spot, you stay and you be the backup. but a lot of people really were in support of Steve Angeli. I think he earned their respect, if you will. So he gets to Syracuse and he earns the starting job there and got off to a really, really good start. Syracuse was 3-1 to start the season, and they pulled off a huge win against Clemson. But in that game, he tore his Achilles tendon, and that was it. So just 4 weeks into the season, he was the passing yards leader in the nation with over 1,500 yards passing. And he tore that ACL or his Achilles tendon, and now he is done for the season. And who knows how long that's going to carry over into next year. Hopefully he'll be back for the start of the season, but it's possible that it could take a couple of games for him to get back. One thing I wanted to mention is that there is a chance, or when he comes back, he will because he'll be able to redshirt because it was just the 4 games that he played. So he does have the eligibility for 2 more seasons in Syracuse, which is a good thing. Yes, that's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for Syracuse, for the Orange fans, because they really, really like him there. What are your thoughts just on Angeli, what you liked about him at Notre Dame, and maybe why or why not you thought he should or should not be the starter at Notre Dame?
Well, I think he was a more number one. Let me say, got a lot of love for Steve Angeli, because he handled the backup position with style and grace and great poise. So really, really respect him for that. I thought he was a more accurate passer than Riley Leonard, and I think he had the pulse of the team. I think he really had the backing of the team, especially when he came in against Penn State and led that drive right before halftime to get points on the board. And I fully expected him to be the starter this year, because he was game tested and just needed his chance to lead the team. But you know what? He did it the right way. He got his degree, and that's what one of the things that Notre Dame tries to teach these guys is, look, it's okay for you to transfer, but get your degree first and then go transfer. That way, you got your paper and then you can explore and see what else is out there. So I was hoping that he would really have a wonderful career at Syracuse. I'm glad you told me he has 2 years left, because my great nephew, who also visited Notre Dame, in one weekend he visited Notre Dame, and then he went to Michigan, but he also visited Penn State and Duke. I mean, he wasn't going to make a bad decision. Well, he made a verbal commitment to Syracuse.
Oh,
So he's class of 26. So he would be on a team with Steve Angeli. His name is Chase Geeter, by the way. And
what's his position?
He's a defensive back. Well, defensive back / safety, but he's definitely it's like a world-class sprinter, AAU at least, and got good size. So I was hoping he would come to Notre Dame. And what I will say, and try not to take up too much time, is when he came to visit, I got to walk around with him, and so he got to watch a practice, something you can't do, but got to be on the sidelines to watch Notre Dame practice. It was a spring practice, but then also got to sit in the room with the coach, and the coach had a presentation and talked about how they practice, what they do, what their expectations are, where they see him fitting. And so after that experience, I can understand why Notre Dame's defensive backs are as good as they are, because they are coached very, very well. They not only have talent and skill, but the cerebral part that they are put through, when they leave that school, they can step right on the field in the NFL and just go right to work. But it's very intense, but they are coached very, very well, which surprised me when I was watching Texas A&M and Miami the first 2 games.
Yeah, I hear you. That's really great insight. But as for Steve Angeli, I think what he did was great for Notre Dame. He sacrificed a ton. He worked really hard. He earned the opportunity to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, but unfortunately for him, Notre Dame went in a different direction. I think now looking back, everyone agrees that it was the right decision for both parties. I watched that Syracuse-Tennessee game at the start of the year, and it was kind of a rough showing for Steve. Now, granted, he was getting pressured constantly. The Syracuse offensive line has not been good at any point this season. And there's a point in the game against UConn, I believe it was 2 weeks after that. I was watching that game too. And there was a point where Syracuse fans wanted him to be benched because he missed on some throws. He had an interception. He might have held the ball too long and taken a couple sacks, which is something that we saw occasionally at Notre Dame. But in that game, he led them to this amazing comeback. And I know it's UConn and people might have their own perspective of what UConn football is, but Jim Moore has had things cooking there lately, and they're a good team this year. So Steve Angeli leads this comeback, and I was like, wow, he's really going to do it. He delivered some amazing touchdown passes that were really difficult throws, and we saw that at times at Notre Dame. So even though it didn't work out for him in a Notre Dame uniform, he's always going to have that last drive against Penn State. So he's always going to have something that everyone will always remember. But I don't know how you guys feel about this. I was asked this a couple times in my mailbag this week. People were asking, should Notre Dame honor Steve Angeli during senior day? And look, I'm all for being proud and grateful for what Steve Angeli did, but on a day where he's wearing the opposing team's uniform, or in this case, their colors, no, he should not be recognized. At least that's my opinion. Because, hey, totally understand why he made the decision to leave. Totally understand why he made the decision to go to Syracuse. 7 figures, opportunity to play, offense that likes to pass a lot. I get it. But, man, when you're on the other sideline in Notre Dame Stadium, I don't care who you are, you should not be getting recognized. But that's just me.
It's an emphatic no for me, too.
Yeah, totally agree with you. There's no chance that he should be honored on senior day. Now, high five him, give him hugs, all that good stuff. Absolutely.
5 years from now, he comes back, welcome with open arms, but not Saturday.
And he probably is one of those guys though that could still come back and the crowd would cheer for him, just like they did when he played at Notre Dame. And that's an interesting perspective, Alan, that you thought he would have been the starting quarterback. He did have the experience, that's for sure. And, but I've said it over and over again. For me, the minute CJ walked in the door, I just felt he was the guy. He had that presence. I've talked about it on this show, talked about it on other shows. He just coming in there as really what still should have been a high school senior. He just had that it factor. And so I did not want Steve, I had respect for Steve Angeli, but I did not want Steve Angeli to be the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. I really didn't even want Kenny Minchie. I really felt that CJ was the guy. So, and we're seeing that now in real time, that CJ was ready and he is the guy and he's going to be the guy for a few more years here at Notre Dame. All right, moving things forward just a little bit. Steve Angeli, he has the season-ending injury. Since then, Syracuse hasn't won a game since. They've also played 3 different quarterbacks now and could even play a 4th this week. Just to give you a little background information, Syracuse head coach Fran Brown said he would probably start Joe Filardi because they're still trying to figure out the quarterback situation. So they'll probably start Joe Filardi, who is a freshman walk-on, and he is member of the Syracuse lacrosse team. And he replaces sophomore Ricky Collins, who was in place of Angeli. Filardi has gone 4 of 18 passing in a start against North Carolina on Halloween. And then he threw his only touchdown pass against Miami on November 8th. They had a bye week after that. What's kind of funny to me is that Brown, their coach, says that he should probably start since he was able to score a touchdown in their last game. They have not scored a lot of points. I think they're averaging about 11 points per game since Angeli has been hurt. And he said, though, that it is possible that they could play a 4th quarterback, Luke Carney. He said he could also get some playing time in this game against Notre Dame. So, I mean, that tells you what state this offense is in right now. That's not a good look. If you're, maybe this guy will start, because he threw a touchdown once, but maybe this other guy who's never played at all, we'll probably get him in the game too. That's a lot of quarterbacks to rifle through in one season. So just, your thoughts on the disaster at quarterback at Syracuse right now? And how does the Irish defense game plan against this? I think it probably doesn't matter who's at quarterback for Syracuse, but just keep this in mind. In their last game, Syracuse quarterbacks, because they played multiples, were sacked a total of 7 times by Miami. So I think whoever is going to be behind center is going to have a rough day going up against that Notre Dame front 7.
Well, I will go with you and say it doesn't matter which quarterback is back there. They can't protect him. He's given up 7. They're giving up 7 sacks on the guy. And so I think Notre Dame is just, if you're on the D line, you're licking your chops because you're getting ready to up your stats, in terms of how many sacks and pressures and TFLs you can get. If you're in the defensive backfield, this is prime time to get a pick, maybe even a pick 6, and they've got their choice. They can play man, they can play zone, because what's going to probably happen, there's going to be so much pressure on the quarterback that there's going to be a lot of free balls up in the air. So I don't see it, the Notre Dame defense having to adjust to a particular style of a quarterback. I think that Notre Dame's defense will dictate that they won't be able to throw the football, and it's unfortunate that Steve Angeli's not playing, and this is not going to be a better game. In fact, it's a game that probably hurts Notre Dame's chances for the playoffs.
Interesting take.
Yeah, I'd like to see Steve Angeli. It looks like Notre Dame might actually get a chance next year because Syracuse is on the schedule. The exact date has not been announced, but it doesn't really matter which backup quarterback they throw out there for this game because they don't really stand a chance. The offensive line doesn't give him a chance. With Filardi, he can move a little bit, which isn't reflected in his stats because he's been sacked 4 times already in limited action. So he's taken some big losses. But, hey, last week, Mason Heinzel was pretty elusive out there in the pocket. He had the Ian Book spin move going. So as long as the Notre Dame front 7 can be prepared for that and just keep him contained, I think Syracuse is going to try to do some trick plays, some gadget stuff, because they have no chance straight up. They know that. Purdue actually got Notre Dame with, honestly, one of the best trick plays I've ever seen when they handed it off to the running back and then he threw it back to the quarterback. Like, that's one of those plays where you just tip your cap. They had a great play call, great design, great execution. I'm sure Syracuse is going to try to get creative, but as long as Notre Dame shows up ready to play and they stay disciplined, I already predicted a shutout this week, so I think the Notre Dame defense is going to be just fine.
I think you're probably onto something there. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for this Syracuse offense to score against Notre Dame. Something to keep in mind, though, the Orange men, they can run the ball, and they had some success in their last game against Miami. They combined for 161 yards on the ground between Willis, Nixon, and Hill. So they are going to try to get some yardage there. But, man, that whoever is at quarterback is going to be in a lot of trouble. I think they're going to be under pressure and they're going to feel that pressure. And Tyler, you called it out last week against Pitt. Do you think the defense is going to get another pick 6, maybe a scoop and score on a fumble recovery, or maybe more than one?
Yeah, I did. I felt good when that happened. I make a lot of predictions, and when one actually gets home, I'm like, all right, I got one. Which, unfortunately, the Eli Raridon anytime touchdown bet is cursed. It's never going to happen. He's allergic to the end zone. He's scared of the sideline. I don't know what it is.
Talking about it, right?
Yeah, so I actually this week I said I've given up on it, which means he'll probably score 3. But I think it's very possible for the Notre Dame defense to score a touchdown. I think they're going to be very active because they know. And what they showed on that 105-yard pick 2 by Adon Schuler was so impressive because they clearly practiced that frequently. Everyone knew exactly where to go. Adon Schuler knew to get to the left sideline. He'd have lead blockers. And you got, I think it was Armel Mukum, who was like 60 yards downfield, D-tackle, lead blocking the rest of the way. So if this defense gets their opportunity, everyone else on that field knows exactly where to go to set up a touchdown. I think they're going to get another one on Saturday.
All right. I love it. All right. Let's take another timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some injury updates for the Irish. And we'll also talk about who are some guys we'd like to see get some opportunities in this game, because I think we all agree they're going to be getting some backups in that third quarter.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. All right, here's my pick. Did you know that Notre Dame has the fourth best odds to win the national championship on FanDuel? That's right, the fourth best odds. That's better than Georgia. It's better than a lot of other teams out there. So if you're thinking about putting some money on Notre Dame to win it all, there's your pick. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Oh, I like that commercial break there. FanDuel with Notre Dame, fourth best odds to win a national championship. That's great, but we got to get them into the national. We got to get them into the playoff. They just got to get to that first round. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here coming up. But first of all, we know we're going to see some different guys, right? We know we're going to see some backup players coming in. What are some things that you'd like to see maybe differently? Would you like to see anything different on defense? Would you like to see some different players or them trying some different things? Or do you not want them to give that kind of trickery away in a game like this and save that for, a playoff game where they might really need it?
Well, I agree that you want to see as many players as possible work up a sweat, get some game experience, because you never know when you're going to have to count on them. And I think Notre Dame, depth-wise, has been pretty good this year, especially on the defensive line. I know on the offensive line, we've got 3 new starters that are playing, but a chance to get a couple guys back. On the D-line, I think we're a little more secure. And I just remember last year losing Riley Mills, how much of an impact that made on that defense. So I want Notre Dame to get in, take care of business early, because the number one thing is you want to win, but number 2, you want everybody healthy. You don't want any injuries, and so the sooner these backups can get in and play, the better. And so it's one of those. You can preach, playing with urgency, so that these backups can play, so that you can also win with style and everything. It's like you got to sort of challenge the guys to say by halftime, I want to be up by 4 scores, and if not, you guys are running sprints right after the game here in the stadium, maybe one of those type of deals. But it's just more important for everyone to get in, get acclimated, get some plays in. But that's about it.
Well, and you said that about, we want to be up by 4 scores at halftime. The defense, those guys, they want to shut out. They were this close to having a shutout last week and gave up that touchdown late. It was something that Marcus Freeman talked about. But man, they were that close to the shutout. What are your thoughts, Tyler?
Okay, so 2 things. One, I would love for all the guys, walk-ons, scholarship guys who never play, I'd love for them to get on the field, because I remember it was actually the USC game my senior year. 2 of my buddies, Logan Plants and Sam Bush, 2 walk-ons, offensive linemen who sacrificed everything to be a part of the program. They, went to every practice, worked their butt off. They were in the weight room, and when they got on the field at the end of that USC game, me and my friends were going nuts in the crowd. It was such a cool moment. They were out there, and then Logan got a false start immediately. So I think his nerves were running a little high in that moment. But, that's a memory that those guys are going to have forever, and they've earned that. So on senior day especially, I hope Notre Dame can get all of those guys in at the end of the fourth quarter. Now, as for some backups who they'll probably need going forward, I'd like to see Aeneas Williams get some touches. I've given up all hope that he's going to be part of the running back rotation this year. So he's probably not going to be out there unless someone gets injured, God forbid. But if he can get out there, get some reps, I mean, I hope that he's able to stick around next year because I think he'd be the lead back for Notre Dame. He has a really bright future ahead of him. So I'd like to see him on defense. Man Framo, the true freshman, has really been coming on lately. And Luke Talich, not even a starter, but man, he's made a huge impact this year. And
he feels like a starter, the level
Yeah.
of play that he's at, and his stats have been great all season.
Exactly. When he's out there, he's making plays always. He's the he's the backup safety for both of them. He comes in when they run the dime package and they bring in the extra defensive back. But he's had 3 interceptions and 3 really impressive pass breakups out there. So when he's out there, he makes plays, and I think they might rely on him and Madden Framo a little bit more if they end up making a deep playoff run.
Fun fact, Sam Bush, I did a really great feature story on him back in the day.
He's the best.
Playing guitar. And he pulled his guitar out, and we sat outside by like where the Goog is, and he played the guitar for me. It was a very memorable moment. Good guy. So it's cool that you guys are friends. If you talk to him, you'll have to tell him that I said I see. He probably wouldn't remember me, but he would remember a reporter doing a story about him playing guitar, because that doesn't happen very often. Yeah,
I'll definitely let him know. He'll be happy that he got a shout out in the show as well.
Exactly.
Logan too, despite the fact that I called out his false start.
Well, we talk about injuries. That to me, man, every time now when it gets late into the game and Jordan or Jeremiah Love is still out there, it's like, and he's still making his spin moves and he's jumping. It's like, oh gosh, you don't want to see anything happen and have him get injured. But talking about injuries and an injury update this week, good news, wide receiver Jaden Greathouse, he is potentially back. He's healthy. He's off of the list. Some guys, I am going to just rattle off some of the players who are listed as out. Nobody is listed as questionable this week, which is also a good thing. But these are the guys that are still out. So Noah Burnett is still out at kicker. So we're still going to have a kicking issue probably in this game. Hopefully we'll get some improvement there. Tight end Cooper Flanagan, he's still out. And there was some possibilities of him coming back and being questionable the last couple of games. He is listed as out. And then, of course, Jagasaw Jones, Gabriel Rubio, Billy Schroth, and Seviano. Those guys are all out for this game. But Jaden Greathouse, he could return, but will he? So what Marcus Freeman said was he is available, and he's available for the first time since September, but he says he doesn't expect to see Greathouse play these last 2 games of the regular season because they want to preserve his red shirt. He's only played in 4 games so far this season, so he can preserve that. Of course, he's been battling a hamstring injury for the better part of the last 2 months. He's not played since September 27th against Arkansas. And so right now, he could redshirt. He didn't redshirt the last 2 years because he was playing pretty significant time. And in his 4 games this season, he averaged 18 yards a catch. Last year, he started 11 games, had a career high 105 yards receiving on 7 catches in the Orange Bowl game against Penn State. He led the Fighting Irish last season in yards per reception at 14.1. Minimum with 20 catches. He led them in receiving yards with 592 and touchdown receptions with 4. I'll be honest, I didn't even realize that he was leading in all of those categories at wide receiver, but that's because the wide receiver position last year, in the last couple of years, hasn't had a lot of impressive stats because they had sort of gotten away with that from having Riley Leonard in as their quarterback last season. So I thought that was interesting, just like, wow, you kind of forgot that Greathouse was sort of the go-to guy for them, leading in so many categories. I guess the question would be, if you're the head coach, do you preserve Jaden Greathouse's and keep him and give him a redshirt year so that you have him for a couple more years? Or is there any reason that you would want to bring him in the next couple of games?
I would prefer that he wait till next year, take a red shirt for this year, because I think the receiver position is on lockdown right now with the guys that are playing. And, you think about the chemistry that's been built between CJ Carr and Malachi and Pauling and Jordan Faison. At this point of the season, you don't want him having to rebuild chemistry with Greathouse. So I think the receiver position is fine. I would love for there to be even more depth next year at the receiver position. You think about the upper hand a Greathouse would have next year, having the spring to work with CJ Carr and be able to, lead a new receiver group that comes in next year. Because with CJ there, if and when we go in the portal, we're going to get some badasses at wide receiver because they know Notre Dame is throwing the football now. We're going to get some studs at wide receiver in this transfer portal.
Yeah, at this point, the only reason he'd play is some insane emergency where every wide receiver just all gets hurt at the same time. And even then, I don't know, maybe you throw a defensive back, maybe Dallas Golden. He played wide receiver in high school. He knows what he's doing when he split out wide. So that would be the only reason why I'd play him. Now, as for the college football playoff, I think, he's a good player. Obviously, he's done some really good things for Notre Dame. But I don't know, Alan, maybe you could speak to this. I think the dynamic there would be pretty interesting for Jaden Greathouse, right? He plays the first 4 games. We all know it didn't go as we had hoped as fans, and I'm sure he had hoped as a player coming off that incredible run at the end of last season. As all these expectations going into this year, made a lot of NIL money. He was going to be one of the go-to guys, and then it just starts out and it doesn't work out. Notre Dame plays out the whole season. On offense, they didn't really need him at any point. They could have used some more production from him at the beginning. And then all of a sudden, you get to the playoff, let's say, and then you want to put him back in the lineup. Does that create some tension, especially when you consider how well Will Pauling has been playing? Notre Dame needs depth. They're going to need a 4th receiver. So you're going to have to put someone out there. But I don't know. I'm not speculating. I have no idea how the team is going to respond to it. You would hope that the culture is strong enough that a player like Jaden Greathouse, who's been around, would be welcomed back into the rotation, and they would be able to just kind of pick up right where they left off with him. But I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to follow because, frankly, this has been one of the most annoying storylines this season for me because I get asked about it every single week. Where is Jaden Greathouse? Well, at least now we finally have the answer. He's not going to play during the regular season. Maybe comes back for the playoff, and then beyond the season, who the hell knows if he's going to be on Notre Dame's roster next year or not. But it's just been a very fascinating story to follow, and I think we're not even really anywhere close to the end of it.
Because it's the playoffs, he would be welcomed with open arms. Again, it's one of those, the more depth, the more bullets you can throw at him, the merrier. If you can have a 4th receiver, and think about it, he's going to have a couple weeks to practice, and what a wonderful addition he would be while all these other coaches in the playoffs are game planning for somebody else. And then number 1 comes out there and is running routes. I mean, that's a way to really blow the opposing defensive coordinator's mind because they would not have prepared for him. So if he can, and then look, with a hamstring, I'm willing to give him another month to get that thing right because a hamstring is kind of iffy. So I would want him to be at 100%. 110%, in fact, before he steps back out on the field. So the playoffs for me would be ideal because that's the point in time where you want to throw everything at the opponent.
All right, well, let's take our last break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk some more about the college football playoff poll and where Notre Dame is. But what is the likelihood now that they could actually be hosting the game, not just squeaking in, but maybe even hosting a game here in South Bend? And we'll have our final thoughts coming up. All right, here we go. So the latest, as we know, the CFP poll came out. Notre Dame still at number 9, doesn't move at all in the polls. And I want to get your thoughts here on this because we've talked, but Tyler, you've got a little bit different perspective on it. Alan and I, we think Notre Dame wins out, they are in. It's locked on, locked in. They are in the playoffs. But what needs to happen at this point for Notre Dame to not only make it into the playoffs, but to get one more spot so that they can host in South Bend? Is that possible? I know it is. but how much do we know that things in front of us have to happen? We got to have some of these other teams losing. And of course, everybody's been talking about Miami. Miami's ranked below Notre Dame, but they have the head-to-head matchup win. They have a big game that they're playing not big, they're playing Virginia Tech, but they've got a game this weekend to keep an eye on. Tyler, let's start with you on this because you really were kind of breaking it down to Alan and I before we started the show tonight. And it's clear as mud, basically.
Well, we're going to get some clarity this weekend. And Notre Dame realistically could be in a position on Sunday where they could host. And it really comes down to two teams. Every Notre Dame fan should be, and I hate to say this, USC fans for a day. I know it's gross. I feel like I need to take a shower just for saying that out loud. But it's true. If USC upsets Oregon on the road, I don't think it's going to happen just given how USC has played on the road under Lincoln Riley. But hypothetically, if USC beats Oregon, Notre Dame's going to jump them. And also, keep an eye out during that noon window before Notre Dame takes on Syracuse. If you're watching college football on TV, Missouri, Oklahoma, that is going to be an ugly game. It will be it's going to be run the ball, a lot of defense in this game, not very much offense because Oklahoma and Missouri have two really good defenses. Missouri has a really talented running back in Hardy, and then Oklahoma's offense, even though they just beat Alabama, they had 212 total yards of offense in that game. It's shocking that they won that, but Alabama just could not stop turning the ball over. So Oklahoma's favored by like 6.5. They could lose that game. If Oregon and Oklahoma lose this weekend and Notre Dame takes care of business against Syracuse, in that case, I would expect them to jump up to 7. And then if we want to look ahead to next week, the weekend after Thanksgiving, who knows what's going on in Ole Miss right now? If you have any idea wherever Lane Kiffin is going next, I mean, at this point, I just throw my hands up. I used to think he was going to stay. Now I think he's gone. Who the hell knows? But Ole Miss has to play Mississippi State. Mississippi State is not a good team, but the Egg Bowl is a weird game. I love watching it on the Friday after I have some Thanksgiving leftovers. That game is always filled with chaos. So there is a world where Ole Miss could lose. If any of those three combinations happen, if Oklahoma loses to Missouri, if Oregon loses to USC, or if Ole Miss ends up losing the Egg Bowl, then Notre Dame might be in a position to host. They still have to take care of business. There's some other stuff at play, but those are the three things that really could vault Notre Dame into a spot where they end up having yet another home playoff game.
Do all three of those things have to happen or just one of those three or a combination?
One opens the door, 2 makes it seem like a lock, and 3, I mean, buy your plane ticket to South Bend.
Well, Allison, I'd like to talk about, I am so tired of all this talk about the Notre Dame bias and, some of the Notre Dame hate. And I know that with all these metrics and things that the committee uses, they are biased because they've watched Notre Dame play. That's the difference. That's the key. If you watch this team play, then there is no doubt they belong in the college football playoff. Yeah, they dug a hole early in the year. And I know Miami is the key team that folks are talking about because Miami beat them head-to-head. At that point of the season, Notre Dame didn't realize what they had in C.J. Carr. They kept throwing the ball, those little screens out to the sideline and everything. And Jeremiah Love was pressing. He couldn't run ball in that particular game. But then look what happened from there to where they are now. They're ascending. Where Miami, you can't trust Miami. And that's what the committee was trying to tell everybody in the first vote is the same old sorry-ass Miami. You can't trust them. And now they're whining and crying, trying to get back in. Yeah, they're a good football team. But if they were such a good football team, they wouldn't have got beat by SMU in Louisville. So I'm so tired of some of the hate. But what I say in the back of my mind is, if the team you're preaching for is so good, get them on the schedule. We'd love to play them.
Yeah, it's tough with the head-to-head matchup, and I do think that should mean something.
It means something.
Right.
Yeah, but recency bias, which, one of the things I used to say to us players all the time is, "What have you done for me lately?"
Right.
They don't care what I did in week 1. They care what I did last play. If we're gonna go by that type of logic, then hell no, Miami's not ahead of Notre Dame.
Well, they both have 2 losses. That's part of the argument. Well, both teams have 2 losses, but Notre Dame's losses to Miami. But Notre Dame's losses were to ranked teams. Miami's losses were to unranked teams.
Right.
So there's the difference right there. So I think in that situation, and I totally agree with you, ascending, descending, Notre Dame should get the advantage in that perspective. Just some final thoughts for us tonight. I've been trying to get you guys to get it like a sound off where you have something that's off the wall that's different, but it doesn't have to be. If you just want to talk about your final thoughts about this game, or maybe who you think could be a key player that maybe we weren't expecting to see, or if there's anything else on your mind, you just want to get it off your chest, now's your time.
Well, I think I got enough off my chest, but I think the most impressive team I saw over the weekend was Oklahoma. And I know it's going to be an ugly game against Missouri, but I think they've clearly stepped up. They've been impressive to me. Yes, I will be cheering for USC. And it's I don't know if I've ever done that in my life. But I will be cheering for USC. But the other thing is, this Alabama team, for as much praise as they're getting, they're still not a Saban-coached Alabama team. They still have chinks in the armor. A Saban Alabama team was just solid on all 3 phases of the ball. This team, it's just different. It's not the same Alabama. So under Nick Saban, would they let Oklahoma come in and beat them in Tuscaloosa? Hell no. So it's just a different, and a Saban coach team wouldn't lose to Florida State either. But it's intriguing, and I think the 12 team format is excellent for college football. I guess my question is, what took them so long to get us here? And we've all been through it. We went through the mythical national champion. One was from the AP, one was from UPI, to we're going to BCS. We're going to let the computer handle it. And then we went to like the +2, and then we went to 4 teams, and then finally we get to this 12 team deal where, it's so great for college football, and I'm just happy that Notre Dame will be a part of it again this year.
I like the 12 team, and I know this is something we'll probably talk about more at some point, but I do like 12 teams. I feel like I don't know that I want to go to 16. And I know Notre Dame Athletic Director Pete Babacqua, he is championing for 16 teams to be in. I feel like you're getting too many teams, and then it starts watering down. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I like the 12 because look how many teams are still in play right now with just 12. With 16, we're still going to have the same arguments.
Right.
They're just going to be longer arguments because we're going to be talking about 30 teams now instead of 20 teams.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I would say is, as the noise around Notre Dame gets louder, the team plays better. It was like that last year during the college football playoff. We saw it this past week against Pitt. They came out and they played aggressive. They were physical and they were violent from the opening snap. And I think we're going to see that same exact team this Saturday and the next one after that, and hopefully several more Saturdays after that.
And I'll say this, the folks that are the quietest speak the loudest. What did FanDuel just say about Notre Dame? You don't think Vegas has any clues? How often are they right? They don't get it wrong that often. The 4th best odds. Okay, they know something that we don't know. Well, we know that they're a worthy team. We know they're a worthy team. But, maybe some of the folks that preach all these other teams and the anti-bias thing should listen to Vegas.
I do think, and like my Sunday morning ritual is I'll watch the college football final when I wake up. I like to lay in bed still, cozy, and just
I do
watch.
too. I'll watch it 3-4 times.
Me too. Just leave it and let it replay. I love it so much. And you notice then from watching that, Notre Dame highlights are like 20 seconds. They'll show one highlight from the entire game. They don't get a ton of love yet on those shows. But this week, I felt like I started hearing national media starting to show some love for Jeremiah Love in the Heisman race, but also for this Notre Dame football team. So it's nice. It's like finally a little bit, a little late, but that's okay. Better late than never. But teams or media around the country are starting to pick up at that. And we're going to be wrapping up quick, but Alan, you've had a chance to do a couple of these national shows for Locked On, and you had told us that, a lot of these national guys that aren't in the Notre Dame bubble, weren't really showing a lot of love for the Irish. Are any of those guys, are you starting to see that now too?
I am. I've seen some of them change a little bit. There was a lot of conference bias, and I think there is some jealousy, because they just wish Notre Dame would get in a conference. But Notre Dame has no financial reason to get in a conference. And that was kind of disturbed because the group I was working with, there's a lot of Big 12 bias with that group. But when I saw Joey McGuire, firing shots at Notre Dame, I was like, dude, your strength of schedule is nowhere near what Notre Dame's strength of schedule is as an independent. So I'm sort of hoping Notre Dame gets a chance to play Texas Tech in the playoffs, because I don't know why coaches continue to do this. When they take shots at Notre Dame, they get their ass served. So it's just, when are they going to learn?
Well,
James Franklin. Ask James Franklin.
There you go. They might get fired after playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Ask Arkansas.
Yeah.
Well, we will leave you all with that. Thank you guys so much for watching us, the Irish Squad show here on Locked On. Locked On is the #1 sports podcast network, and it's because of folks like you who are listening and watching. And if you are, please subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast. And if you enjoyed the show today, please give this video a like or rate us 5 stars. We love that too. And if you can give us a review, we really appreciate it. Because of fans like you, Locked On is #1. Thank you so much. And we will check back in with you after the game on Saturday. But for now, go Irish.